the
We Got It podcast.
And we're so thrilled to be back with you. For those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do, the We Got It podcast is an official podcast of Spartans Illustrated. So you can always find our content along with so many other great videos, articles, game threads, forums, chats over on the brand new Spartans Illustrated website and mobile app. Be sure to check it out. It is fantastic. And if you haven't already, or even if you had, maybe, just go double check. Make sure you're following us on social media, subscribed on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. It truly helps our little sports podcast get out to more and more of the MSU community. And that's really what this is about. We want to reach as many Spartan fans as possible to just continue to make Spartan sports accessible and engaging and approachable for every kind of fan.
I mean, we're doing this hopefully to help engage and create a community of Spartan fans who feel like they got it too, like you said. And there's a lot to get right now when it comes to specifically Spartan football, but across the athletic department. But when we start with the football team for now,
we're just going there.
We're going
there right away.
And vibes are not great right now. I don't think I've necessarily seen the fan base be so aligned in kind of the doom and gloom mindset right now.
That's a very nice way of putting it. Like, oh, the Spartan family's all together. They're sad, but they're all together.
Yes. And yeah, there's not too many people who are like, it's fine, just be paid. I think pretty much everyone at this point has run out of patience, no matter how fair or not fair that may or may not be.
Yeah, I mean, how do you even have some semblance of optimism without being completely delusional? I mean, no offense if you're somebody out there who's really optimistic, like, go you, but also, like, look at the reality of the football program and just the state of the team the last couple of weeks. Like, it is a sad sight.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan State, like we know, started off 3-0 on the year. I think things were feeling pretty good after that Boston College.
Things were feeling pretty good for you over there. I was like 3-9.
I will say you have been saying that all along. I would say by and large, though, like, there's a big difference between how everybody was feeling at 3-0 than what people are feeling now.
Just nihilistic
at 3-4 now. And obviously, like, there's a lot we could talk about. The defense has looked just so rough. I mean, the last 4 weeks they've allowed 45, 38, 42, and 38 again. Against some solid opponents, but still, like, just no semblance of any kind of, like, identity or consistency on this defense. I know this last week, Indiana scored touchdowns on their first 5 drives of the game and really, like, didn't let a strong first half from this offense kind of leave that first half with any great vibes because the defense literally just couldn't get off the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think we've been saying this a bit, and I know, offense maybe hasn't shown in the way that we would hope that it would the last couple of weeks, but the defense can't get off the field. Like, you are creating no opportunities by, one, not only not getting stops, but like how long you're letting the other team possess the ball. That's how long you're not possessing the ball. And you don't have the option to use Aiden Childs, to use Nick Marsh, to use Frazier. Like, those guys are just sitting on the bench waiting for you guys to take care of business, and it's not happening.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like, the first really, like, 3 offensive possessions against Indiana for the offense were really encouraging, moving the ball both on the ground and through the air. Like, Childs seemed to have, like, gotten some confidence back after a pretty rough 2 weeks at Nebraska and at home against UCLA. I think he started off like 18 of his first 20 passes were completions. nearly 200 yards, a touchdown to Nick Marsh. Like they were getting it to their weapons.
Like
But
if you
then
can look at that stat line isolated, you'd be like, wow, what a great first half for Michigan State.
exactly. But then you look on the flip side, Indiana had scored on all three of their possessions in the first half.
Yes.
And when maybe you could have felt pretty good going into the first half of the Indiana game, you kind of just felt like, okay, it's 21-10.
Yeah.
Indiana's going to score on the drive
Yes.
to start the half and
Like
be
you're
20.
already counting your losses at that point.
Right. It just seemed like even despite the strong showing, I think, from the offense in the first half, that game, and granted, it was against now number 2
Oh my gosh,
Indiana.
yeah.
Nobody expected Michigan State to win that
No,
game.
especially not after the performance against UCLA.
But I mean, I said that Michigan State would probably have to get 4 to 5 stops a game
Yeah.
to kind of be in these games. And when you allow touchdowns on your first 5 defensive possessions, you have no shot, no matter how good your offense is. Like Michigan State wasn't going to score 5 straight touchdowns on that elite Indiana
You're
defense.
requiring your offense to be perfection.
Yes.
If that's the standard that you're setting on defense. And that's just, how do you ever guarantee that you're going to win games that way?
Yeah, you won't. I mean, that's why this team right now is 3-4, have lost 4 straight, despite scoring 31 at USC, despite having some promising moments against both Nebraska and Indiana offensively. But outside of really that Nebraska game, none of those games really felt like games that Michigan State were ever truly in.
And this is what I think is partly so confusing to me. Thinking back to preseason, we talked about how on defense, that was actually one of the areas where we had some of the most like veteran experienced players. Not a lot of new names, not a lot of new faces. Whereas on offense, aside from Marsh and Childs, heavens, just about everybody outside of our, tackles and guards were new faces. And even then on the O-line, like a lot of new faces. So why is it, do you think, that the defense is just letting us down so horribly? I mean, it's not like they were fantastic last year. Like they were serviceable though. Like you could count on them to get out there and maybe get 3 or 4 stops a game. Like, I'm not saying that Michigan State had this incredible defense last year and, how did we just tank because we didn't lose anybody? But how do we go from being like average to being, I mean, I would venture bottom of the barrel of the Big Ten, if not the Power 4, when it comes to defense? Like, make it make sense.
No, you're absolutely right. I know we try not to get too heady into stats in this podcast, but I saw something that was just very
we can break it down.
eye-opening for me this week. Basically, it's someone that posted on Twitter this stat, which I'd never heard of before. But basically what it looks like is looks at an opposing offense and looks at all their drives and sees what the total possible yards is for the game. So, for example, if Indiana starts at the 50-yard line, the total possible yards
on that drive would be 50.
Exactly.
But if they're starting at the 16, then it's going to be the 84 potential yards.
Exactly. But then you compare that to the amount of yards you allowed and basically gives it a percentage of what is the percentage of total possible yards that you allowed.
Yeah, or that the other team got. Yeah.
And Michigan State in conference play alone is the second worst in the country at the allowing yards compared to total possible yards. I think
in the country, not just the Power 4.
Only team that was worse in the country was Air Force. And I think it was 69% possible
yards
that Michigan State was allowing.
Which means that's insane to think about. Because if you think about it, like in some ways, that's touchdowns on 70%. of their possessions. Because, I mean, how many more? You've got 30 yards left. You're kicking field goals. I'm not saying that they're scoring on every drive, but that's insane.
Yeah, and I know,
insane.
obviously, I think
Not in a good way, insane.
I think anybody watching the last 4 weeks has known how much the defense has struggled.
Yikes.
But seeing that stat, it's like, man, like it almost can't get worse.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the dialogue that has been going on in the Spartan family because, you know, we've established we're here, we're together, we're sad. And, you know, maybe a little frustrated, dare I say, angry, or maybe just like, you know, looking for some change. So when I think about this, a couple weeks back, we had somebody write into the podcast and basically ask, like, I think this was after the USC loss.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was our bye week episode, asking how short of a leash does Joe Rossi have? Like, at what point do we start looking at that? And it is insane to me that in the 2 weeks since then, the conversation we had shifted from like, oh no, like, you know, it's only year 2 of the program. Like, I don't really see him getting canned. I don't really see there being a big change there. To now, this week, only 2 weeks later, essentially, the dialogue is Jonathan Smith and the entire coaching staff even going to be here next week?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been a lot of the discourse online over the last couple of weeks, starting with that UCLA loss.
Yeah.
And I think prior to that game, like Michigan State was kind of exactly where they were expected to be
Yeah.
record wise. You know, I think most people thought they would be 3-0, and then most people thought they were probably going to lose at Nebraska and at USC. So I think there was still just like a little bit of definitely frustration and like annoyed at the product that was on the field.
Yes.
But still kind of right at those expectations.
And it felt redeemable. Like, it still felt like, okay, we've just had a couple weeks, you know, at USC, you're playing at 11 p.m. for these. You know, there were these excuses you could make, plausible deniability for why this, you know, could still be happening the way that it's happening. But then homecoming happens and UCLA happens. And the narratives, you know, starts shifting a little bit. And I think there's some fickleness to that, right? Like, there's just the frustration and those sorts of things. But also, like, what has this coaching staff shown us they can do versus what have they shown us that they are not able to do so far? And so I think it's a conversation worth having, and I think that's why people are having it at this point. And I haven't gotten the sense that it's from this huge amount of anger or like pettiness, really, but just like, we need a football program that's serviceable. Like, we need these players to have the opportunity to actually be able to do something great. And we keep talking about this, but it's just so sad seeing talent like Childs and Marsh especially get hidden behind the train wreck, quite frankly, that is the rest of the team.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan State went into that UCLA game. UCLA on paper was the easiest remaining game, the most winnable game. You're favored by double digits.
You're at home on homecoming, playing a West Coast team who has to travel all the way here and deal with us on our turf.
Playing at 9 a.m. local time for them, and to get absolutely, like, I'm going to say embarrassed in that game. UCLA at one point scored 36 unanswered points against Michigan State, a one win, albeit UCLA team who had lost to multiple Mountain West teams. And at that point, the defense looked significantly worse than Michigan State. And
which is saying something.
You get a first drive touchdown, and then you get kind of like a garbage time touchdown in the fourth quarter when your backups are kind of in. And you end up losing 43-13. And
I
that,
quite frankly blocked the score out of my mind. I really wish you hadn't just brought it back up again.
and not only that, not only do you have that embarrassment in front of the homecoming crowd, but you have a running back for UCLA who used to play for Michigan State, Jalen Berger, saying after the game, it's almost like they didn't want to play anymore. And being at that game, watching the sidelines, there was just no energy, no excitement. And it wasn't just the players' effort, I don't think. I mean, I think that was an issue, especially as the game continued to go the way it was going. But also, the coaching staff was just not putting this team in positions to succeed or change momentum or continue momentum. And it was just really a failure on all fronts on that game.
And I think that quote from Berger kind of sums up how Spartan Nation is feeling. Where are we wanting to come to play? And then I take it a step further, and I'm probably beating a dead horse here because I've been talking about this on previous episodes, but how the heck are those players going to get energy, get drive, have the grit to keep pushing when things don't go the way that they ought to be going if your coaching staff is giving you stone face, zero emotion, no anything? And I know I'm probably comparing apples and oranges here, college football versus NFL, but you watch the Lions game from Sunday and you see defensive coordinator Shepard out there. I mean, that guy is hauling booty down the line, yelling at players. Every time a player's coming off the field, he's there. He's so animated. He's getting them hyped up. He's breaking down what they did. I'm asking for like 10% of that. And it's not just Smith. And that's what makes me start to deeply get concerned about culture is like, you can have a figurehead that's stoic. You can have a leader who prefers to delegate and let those other coaches and things take over. I'm not seeing that at all. It is just like completely lackluster on the sideline, like you said. And it's just, it really does feel like the lights have gone out. Like, who's there to stoke the fire again? Everybody's just tapped out.
Exactly. I mean, even for the Lions, like Dan Campbell isn't the most animated on the sidelines.
He
the
looks like
game.
He's gonna blow a gasket.
But yeah, the coaching staff is into it and they are pumping up their team when they get a turnover or make a play. They're in their team's faces when they make a mistake, and there just isn't any of that fire, or seems like to me there's just no urgency to kind of right the ship right now. And I think what frustrates Michigan State fans right now the most is I know a lot of people have kind of compared new coaches to what Kurt Cignetti is doing at Indiana. You know, year one, turning a program with perhaps the worst history in the Big Ten into a playoff team year one. Now undefeated, number 2 team in the country in year 2. And I've seen some people say like, oh, it's very unfair for other teams or programs to compare maybe their success of their new head coach to Kurt Cignetti, because that's what's happening there is just so rare. But I don't think a single MSU fan is expecting Michigan State to be
at playoff level or to be undefeated,
to be where Indiana is, or even close.
We're just asking to like maybe be at 500,
or
above,
or just showing one sign of
improvement,
progress, one sign of energy into the program, one sign of urgency into the program. And to me personally, there's just none of that right now. When it comes to all facets of the game, you want to go, I don't see that from players. I don't see that from coaches. I don't see that from recruits. I haven't seen Michigan State be able to have that kind of urgency when it comes to giving Jonathan Smith the resources to be able to construct a roster that can win some games. And it's really a failure on all levels. I know like it's so easy to point the blame on, oh, let's point it at the players. Let's point it at the coordinators or Jonathan Smith or Alan Haller who was fired or the donors, but the reality is like this is a failure at every single
Mm-hmm.
level. And despite knowing that Jonathan Smith was going to be a longer rebuild, at this point, I don't think it's unreasonable at all to ask for one sign
There's
of
some progress.
exactly.
Like we're actually so much further back than we were at this time last season. I mean, heading into rivalry week, I think we all had some fire in us. Like we actually could take on Michigan. And, I'm never going to count the Spartans out, especially heading into that rivalry because things are so electric. Anything can happen. We're back at Spartan Stadium this week. However, my level of optimism and energy and excitement for this matchup is, I mean, it's beans compared to where it was last year. Like, this is just, and I think that's really what kind of sums up like why people are sad and frustrated is it's like there's been no progress from a year ago. If anything, it's been steps backwards after, even us like talking this big talk of who we were going after in the transfer portal over Christmas and over, the spring season. All of this hype behind these players that we're bringing in, sounds like MSU worked very hard to retain players like Nick Marsh, Aiden Childs by, having NIL negotiations and all these things. And it just feels like, for what? Like, for what? And that's where I get really concerned. And maybe we can get into this part in a second of, not even maybe like a potential whole coaching overhaul, but what happens to these top talent players in the scene that is now college football? I mean, the transfer portal, you don't have to sit out a year anymore. NIL money, I mean, you can go to many different schools and be garnering 6-7 figures for players like Nick Marsh and Aiden Childs. I mean, as much as I hate to have this conversation, like what's going to keep them at Michigan State after this year? And that's what's so concerning to me because not only does it hurt this class and hurts those players and just like everyone's enjoyment of this team, that's a horrible selling point for new recruits.
No, I mean, you've already seen kind of the fallout from that. I mean, how many players have we seen over the last couple of years have talent, have some success at Michigan State, transfer out, and then have a lot of success at programs that are actually winning? You have a guy like Keon Coleman goes to Florida State and becomes a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
You have
starting wide receiver now in the NFL.
You have Jeremy Bernard going to Alabama and now being their number one wide receiver. You have a guy like Sam Leavitt, who is really balling out for Arizona State at quarterback. You have this precedent really of not only is there that risk for current players, but now those current players can see that there's kind of a path for them to really elevate their career.
And guess what? It's not at Michigan State.
And it hasn't been happening at Michigan State. Exactly. And that's really concerning to me. I know not all of that, obviously, for those players is Jonathan Smith's fault.
And it's not like a one-to-one correlation. But I'm thinking about this, and I'm wondering what Jaron Glover knew. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Jaron Glover?
Jaron.
Okay, I almost said it that way and then it wrong. I'm wondering what Jaron Glover knew that we all didn't, because he came very close to transferring from Michigan State to, was it Georgia or Alabama? Georgia, heading into the 2024 season. But then, he'd gone on official visits, all these things, and then decided to stay at Michigan State. And, all really excited about that. And so then I was so confused in the off season why he would choose to leave, right? Like, and where did he end up even transferring to?
I mean, right now he's at Mississippi State and not even playing.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you could say whatever you want with that, but like he chose to stay after could have having had a really huge opportunity at Georgia, chose to stay under Jonathan Smith, and then after one season, he says, "I'm out." And I don't think that's just because there was all this new talent coming in. I mean, he had a pretty impressive, consistent season last year. I don't know, just it's some food for that. All right, we're gonna stop beating around the bush.
Yep. There's
Jonah, do you think? I mean, at the time of recording, I don't think that there's a chance that they're gonna can Smith 3 days before the Michigan game. If they do, I'm going to have some big beef with the athletic department. But like, are we there? If this game doesn't go well, are we there either way? Like, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you could take this a lot of different ways. If I'm being honest, I think that Michigan State probably should move on from Jonathan Smith.
Okay.
I'm not even saying that Jonathan Smith is a bad coach. I just do not think that he is a fit for Michigan State and the culture and what he has been doing, although hasn't had a lot of time, doesn't seem to be gaining any traction whatsoever. Like you said, they're not going to be canning him at this point before the Michigan game. I don't even think they would fire him after an embarrassing loss to Michigan.
Gosh, I hope not. Because let's be, I mean, try to keep things pleasant towards our, acquaintances down in the Ann Arbor. But they're just going to be brutal. Like, why give your greatest rival that fuel? Like,
exactly.
Oh yeah, we beat you so bad, we made you fire your head coach. Like, and I think that's why you and I were talking. If they were going to, like, if the decision was made to get rid of Smith, you'd think it would have come Sunday, Monday morning following that Indiana loss. And, part of it can be like, well, the Indiana loss wasn't as embarrassing as it could have been. I think that loss was kind of expected. We at least covered the spread in that barely there at the end. However, like, I'm kind of just like, what's going on? Because now at this point, you're waiting 2 more weeks.
Right. And it's hard to know exactly because J.Bat, athletic director, has just been in this position since this summer. I don't think he was anticipating about having to really think about potentially finding a new football coach this soon into his time at Michigan State. But I think for Jonathan Smith, this isn't any intel or any kind of reporting at all, but like, I think
just pure vibes.
This game against Michigan is going to end up being like his shot to kind of win back the fan base, to maybe give some confidence or some peace of mind a little bit to the athletic department. But if they lose this game in any kind of embarrassing fashion, and the season continues to go how we think it is, I have a really hard time thinking that Michigan State is going to hold on to Jonathan Smith. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen during the season. I think if it does happen during the season, I wouldn't be surprised if that's maybe after the following week against Minnesota. You kind of don't give Michigan that satisfaction, but then also it's during a bye week, so you give kind of the interim coach 2 weeks with the team to kind of prepare. I think most likely if they do move on from him, it'll probably be after the season, because the reality is, like, J-Bat has obviously thoughts and opinions. Nobody really knows what they are. And if he's thinking
our lives over here
that he may be getting rid of Jonathan Smith, like, he can still be kind of having back channel conversations with other coaches' agents and kind of testing the waters, putting out feelers. Like, he can kind of do that behind the scenes, whether or not Smith is the head coach at Michigan State.
Like, it wouldn't deter the search for a new head coach too much by still having him in place.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm kind of the opinion, and if I'm Jay Bat and I think Jonathan Smith isn't the guy, I don't see any purpose in dragging it out. Um, Obviously, I think there's enough opportunity left for Jonathan Smith where there is a world where he can kind of change opinions to end this year. I mean, nobody on the schedule remaining is a great team. I don't think Michigan's very good. Penn State, I think, is going to be 3-6 by the time we play them. Iowa and Minnesota and Maryland, are all teams that Michigan State can beat.
Should have the potential to be winnable games. Yeah.
So there is a world, I think, where hey, maybe Michigan State does beat Michigan and kind of changes the trajectory and gets to a bowl game, and then I think the perception of the situation is a lot different. But I don't really think that's what's going to end up happening. Yeah. I've seen no signs or indications that may happen. So personally, I think that Jonathan Smith will not be the coach of Michigan State next year. But at the end of the day, we don't know what Jay Bat is thinking. Yeah. We don't know what the finances of Michigan State is
right. That's what I'm just about to bring up. Getting rid of Smith comes with a lot of literal baggage. You're sending him off with what, $50+ million left on his contract?
So his buyout would be 32-ish million, but then there's also buyouts for the assistant coaches. Right. But then there's also, you got to have money for a new coach, which is probably
right
equal amount, if not more. So you're probably looking at Michigan State needing to fork up $100 million. Granted, that's not all in a lump sum.
For a second, I was like, no, you said that wrong. No, yeah, $100 million.
And that isn't a lump sum. Jonathan Smith doesn't get a check for $32 million if they were to fire him. He would still just be getting his normal paychecks throughout the duration of what his contract would be.
Gosh, I really should be a college football coach.
Yeah, it's a great gig to be.
What am I doing with my life? I am terrible at my job and I get fired and nothing.
Yep.
He's not doing so hot at Michigan State. Here you go. Here's $32 million.
I was talking with a friend this week.
Oh, my Lanta.
And in what world is not succeeding at your job not being fired for cause? If you aren't meeting the expectations of a minimum, making a bowl game or showing improvement, there's got to be some kind of performance clause to be able to say, you're not doing good, so we're firing you with cause.
I mean, quite frankly, you could live the whole rest of your life very easily off of $32 million and pretty darn comfortably at that. What's to stop someone from just rising through the ranks, securing a good gig, having a nice contract, and then being man, I could keep doing this much work, putting in 100 hours a week and make the same amount as it would for me to sit on my booty for the rest of my life.
I think Mel Tucker was on that track if he wasn't such a dummy and did the things that he did. I think he was well on the way from Michigan State, probably having to fire him without cause and being set for life, never having to do a day of work again.
Yeah. So if we can, maybe in the next coaching search, look for a coach who actually wants to coach, that'd be great. But this conversation brings me back to the conversation we had with Graham Couch last season, just about the wild amounts of money and changes that have happened in college sports in the last 10, 15 years.
Even the last 2-3 years.
Yeah. I mean, just numbers have skyrocketed. NIL has completely changed the landscape of recruiting, of the transfer portal, which that had its own changes, which completely influenced things. Now we've got revenue sharing that's also further influencing things. At what point do the traditions that have stood for so long need to be reevaluated? maybe we are starting to see coaches take advantage of these contracts. Maybe there needs to be, like you said, a fire with cause. Like, you're not meeting your minimum job expectations, so you don't get as much of your payout of your contract. Just like how Graham talked about with students. And, I really hope we don't ever get to the point where student athletes start becoming employees of the university, because I think that gets very muddy very quick. We'd start having contracts with these students of like, hey, if you're going to, accept this NIL package, you're contractually agreeing to remain at the school for 3 years. Like, starting to, things have changed so much in what players are getting and what coaches are getting, but there's been very little ask back from those people to stay committed. And I think that's just so massive in collegiate sports, right? Like, we're used to it from the NFL, the NBA. I mean, you could be halfway through a season. What was it last NBA season? Like, the crazy trade right before the playoffs.
Yeah, Luka Doncic and Anthony
Yeah,
Davis.
like insane. Like, you count on those, like those are like flagship players being, and even that was like a little startling, but it's NBA or whatever, so you kind of get used to it. People get yanked around all the time. But with college sports, like, you are so committed to that family feeling, and it's these student athletes, like their moms are there, their dads are there, their girlfriends are there, like invested in a way that you don't see, I think, up close at the NFL or other professional sport level. Like, I just feel like it's going to deteriorate. Like, you're not going to have a fan base because nobody's invested, because everybody's bouncing around constantly, and you're
Mm-hmm.
you're getting absolutely burnt out. Donors are getting burnt out. People who are buying NIL, shirts and things, like, oh, cool, this player that I just bought a shirt for last year, like, they're at Alabama now, or they're at NC
NC
State now.
State now.
That's a sore point. Sorry, that was a long rant, but it's just, something's got to change, I think, in any way for college sports to be entertaining and consumable, and to maintain like any sort of loyalty from a fan base.
Yeah, and I just think in this day and age, like, because of the transfer portal, because of the ways you can turn around a program quickly, and not even to the level I'm saying of Indiana, but the fact that you can turn a program that maybe traditionally has not been
Mm-hmm.
strong into having successful seasons is by showing a sense of urgency and a collaborative from all levels
Mm-hmm.
commitment to winning. Like, it is possible, and that's why I think it's so frustrating to me about the current state of where Michigan State is at none of those levels does
Yeah.
there seem to be any urgency. And I think that this is like a big moment for Jay Back, because he said repeatedly
Yeah.
since coming to AD at Michigan State that I believe that this is a top 15 athletic department in the country. Football drives the athletic department. And if those two things are true, you have to start
You have to act.
operating
Yeah. You have to
like
act
that.
like it. Yes.
Exactly. And at no level right now, at least from our perspective, is Michigan State operating as a top 25
No,
football
we've just
program.
accepted, like, oh, yep, we're just a basketball school. Like, and I love that we're a basketball school. Don't get me wrong about that. But like you said, football drives that. It's the driver behind revenue sharing, which is now going to tie so much into recruiting players for basketball and women's volleyball and women's soccer and like all of these other scholarship sports. And if you can't deliver on the football field, you're not going to be able to deliver in other
Right.
sports. Like, that's the reality now, is that it's going to start affecting everything else.
Yeah. And I think you're seeing some schools realize because of this, hey, we're probably not going to be successful at football. So we're going to put our energy into basketball and these other sports. But what the athletic department is saying
Right.
is, no, we need football to be at a high level. Okay, so now it's time to show me that you're ready to take
Yeah.
those steps so that this football program can be at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to say, hey, we got Tom Izzo, we got Adam Nightingale,
Yeah.
we got some other non-revenue sports doing really well, we're going to make sure that all of those are doing
As well as
fantastic,
they can be, have every
and
resource they need.
football is whatever. That's one thing. I
But it's
wouldn't
this,
love that approach,
right.
But when the communication
Yeah,
and
the mixed messaging is almost more frustrating and more confusing because you can't just say something and hope that it happens. You got to actually put your money where your mouth is. I mean, that's literally what needs to happen, and get some stuff done.
especially too, because I mean, at no point am I really like frustrated or mad at what J Bat has done so far. I mean, he's been here
Oh yeah,
so
he's had
short
no
a
time
time,
to even.
but
We like the pyrotechnics; those
yeah,
are great.
fireworks are fun. Um, he was touted as an elite fundraiser when he was at Georgia Tech, and with the kind of rhetoric that we've already talked about him saying, like with those two things, like because of the state of the football program, there's going to be need from massive changes at every level to kind of right this ship, or else it's going to be more of what we've been seeing for the last 10 years from this program. And it's going to get harder and harder to dig out of. The more disengaged your fans are, the more disengaged your donors are, the more your current players see Michigan State players transfer out and have success. Like it's just going to get harder and harder to be able to
Compete at that level. Yeah,
rebuild
yeah,
what we've seen this program can be and have some sustained success at. And it's just not there. And yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this season ends, see what decisions that Jay Bat makes regarding this program. But this is a big week,
yeah.
obviously. I think this is probably the least we've ever talked about the Michigan State
Yeah, going into
Michigan
rivalry
game
week.
going into
Everything's
rivalry
just
week.
so overshadowed.
But this is about as high stakes as it
Yeah.
gets for Jonathan Smith and his coaching staff, I think. And they got a game at home. They got a game under the lights. They have, I don't think, a very great Michigan team. Like all things like the football team aside are kind of like, okay, like we can make something
Yeah.
happen here. And they're going to need to show
The
everybody.
football team aside, yeah, like every other factor is kind of like if the last 4 weeks hadn't happened, we'd be like, oh yeah, like we got this
Yes.
week, you know. And instead, we're like, let's see who shows up on Saturday.
And Jonathan Smith said in his press conference this week, like they're attacking this week different than they've attacked any other week. They have a sense of urgency. I think there is a better understanding of this rivalry,
Again,
but
let's see if they can put their money where their mouth is.
exactly, like we'll see if those are actually happening or if they matter at all, if they have an effect on the outcome of this game.
And maybe I'm just too gullible because after UCLA, when Jonathan Smith said something along the lines of like, yeah, it just wasn't good enough, I wanted to start throwing some haymakers. Like, are you kidding me? It wasn't good enough? Like, duh. Of course it wasn't good enough. Like, oh my gosh. But then hearing you say him being like, oh, yeah, we're attacking this week differently, I'm like, yeah, we can do this. But I'm just gullible. But this is the thing. And here's where, I don't want this to come across this episode. Like we've been having so many conversations just between the two of us that we can't record all of them over the last couple of weeks of like, is it even right to fire a coach in the middle of the season? Like, do you even think Michigan State could start thinking about that with Smith? And obviously it's evolved to the conversation we're having today, but I'm not gone on Smith yet. And here's the thing that I think might get my heart and soul back into it again is if that man can show one lick of passion during the Michigan game. I'm sorry, Jonathan. Like, you want to know what you can do to help save your job a little bit? Like, show Spartan Nation that you care about the rivalry. That was the most frustrating part of the loss last year, was just his absolute lack of cares. Like, I get if that's your personality, and I know we've been over this so many times, but make it your personality on Saturday. Like, show up, show us with your face, with your body language that this matters to you, because it matters a heck of a lot to the thousands of MSU alumni, families, former players, fans. Like, we care about this, so show us that you do. I don't think you listen to this. Maybe if you do, like, just give us something on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think that is just what everybody needs to see and is hoping. And I think like as bad as the on-field product has been so far this year, like I do believe like there is enough talent on this team, especially on offense, to come away with a victory. Like
Yes.
we saw Mark D'Antonio beat more talented Michigan teams
With,
on numerous occasions.
yeah,
And like with this rivalry, like you said, like truly
anything
anything
can
can
happen.
happen.
Yeah.
But if Michigan State isn't having fire, motivation, heart, if they're not prepared mentally, physically, Michigan's going to be
because
all of those things.
because that's the rivalry. Like, what is a rivalry if there's not passion? Like, what is a rivalry if you don't have fire or like a bit of a chip on your shoulder? Like, they're going to come into Spartan Stadium and start calling us little brother. Like, you better be pissed off about that. You better be ready to punch him in the teeth. Like, and that's where I'm saying, like, I need that from Jonathan. If you want to win me back more so than you winning this game, I mean, if you lose this game and you're showing emotion, ugh. If you lose this game and you don't show emotion, like, I'm sorry, but you just might be dead to me. Like, I might just be like, okay, we're good. Like, right now, I'm still open to it. I'm still like, I don't know if we really need to go there. And I think a lot of how he emotionally approaches the event on Saturday is going to seal his fate in a lot of Spartans' minds.
Yeah, because if you can't get up for playing your rival at home under the lights, like what is
Yeah.
going to get you going?
Yeah.
What is going to get you to show passion, energy, emotion,
Yeah.
urgency? If it's not this game,
Yeah.
which is, I think, an opportunity for Michigan State, an opportunity that I don't necessarily think that they're going to take advantage of. But if Jonathan Smith wants to show everybody involved with Michigan State that he can be the guy
Yeah.
to lead this program, like this is their backs are against the wall.
Yeah.
That everybody is doubting you. Everybody is starting to question you. And this is probably the one opportunity you have to really showcase
Yeah.
that maybe we can have some trust in you. Maybe we can have some belief. Maybe there can be some progress and some signs that, okay, maybe things can turn around, but it's got to happen this week.
Oh, man. All right. I think we needed to get these things off of our chest. There's been a lot building up here for a while. Before we kind of completely close out the rivalry week discussion, like, let's break down maybe a couple X's and O's of just the matchup. Tell me your thoughts on this Star Underwood for Michigan. Like, what should we be expecting is going to be the most difficult thing that Michigan State's going to face? Is it this new quarterback, this threat? Is it going to be their defense? Is it going to be maybe just ourselves? What do you think are maybe some key things to look out for actual gameplay on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Bryce Underwood's gotten a lot of attention even before this season, and I think there's been some. I mean, Michigan fans are going to say that he's the second
Everything,
coming
yeah.
of name your Heisman
Yeah.
quarterback. I think on the outside, there's been still a lot of like respect and people being impressed with his play. The fact of the matter is, though, like Michigan really hasn't just like given him the reins. In some of their like losses, he haven't really been throwing the ball much or throwing the ball like down the field much. Like it seems like he has that talent, but doesn't seem like he maybe has that trust from the coaching staff. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how
Kind of how
Sharon
much they,
Moore
let him open up.
lets him open up. I would say if they do let him open up and he's letting it fire and it's working, like that's very bad news for Michigan
Mm-hmm.
State, because really the strength of this Michigan team is their rushing attack,
Mm-hmm.
especially from running back Justice Hayes. Has been one of the best running backs in the country all season long now. He got knocked out during that USC game a couple weeks ago, did
Mm-hmm.
not play against Washington, and then some question marks if he's going to be even able to go. I know that there was a report this week that their starting left tackle is out this week for Michigan, so maybe a little bit of a banged up offense for
Mm-hmm.
Michigan. So like maybe Michigan State can take advantage, but also like Michigan State's run defense has not been good. Michigan State's pass rush has not been good. So like, is Michigan down to some
Yeah.
backups going to be enough to swing
Right.
how this game goes a little bit?
To level the playing field, that is.
I don't think so. I
Our
think
defense.
where Michigan has the real advantage in this game is just on both lines, both offensive line and defensive line. I think they have a lot of future
If only we could say that about the Spartans.
NFL players on both sides. So I think that's like, can Michigan State hold up in those regards? Like, I actually think that Michigan State protected Aiden Childs pretty well against Indiana, and they got a very good defensive line in front 7. I think that if Michigan State can give Childs time, I think that the offense can make things happen. This isn't an explosive Michigan offense, so like maybe there's some opportunities to get off the field. Like, I think there are some like holes and weaknesses in this Michigan team. I just don't know if we've seen enough from Michigan State to be able to like
know that we can,
exploit
confidently,
those. But the opportunity is there. I don't know if Michigan State, at least we haven't seen yet that Michigan State is able to kind of capitalize on maybe some of those injuries or weaknesses from Michigan. Like, I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game. I think if it ends up being a high scoring game, like, I don't know if
I'm going to take a venture that it's not going to be Michigan State.
But also, like, Michigan State's going to have to put up some points to win this game. Like, I think if Michigan State...
We got to get more offense going than we have the last 2 weeks. That's for sure.
If you were to kind of, like, how does Michigan State win this game? It's, you got to protect Aiden Childs. Aiden Childs has to be dynamic with his arm, with his feet, making plays happen. I think the way you saw the first half of that Indiana game, where Indiana didn't get their second possession of the game until 10 minutes left in the second quarter. If you can shrink those possessions, limit how much the Michigan offense can be on the field, keep their defense on the field, but then you also have to capitalize on your drives with scores. Like, I think there was maybe some encouraging signs, like I said, in that Indiana game where they were possessing the ball, having long drive. They scored a touchdown and then a field goal on their first drives. And I think, like, I don't think Michigan's probably going to score touchdowns on their first 5 drives. I don't think.
Let's hope and pray.
So if their offense can have a start like they did against Indiana, like, I think this could be a game for a little bit. But can they cut down on the mistakes, on the mental lapses, on the missed tackles? Can they not turn the ball over? Maybe can they create a couple turnovers?
And that's going to be huge, because I feel like inevitably in these rivalry games, there are just these wild things that happen. Loose balls batted down out of the air. Like, we have to be able to capitalize on those momentum shifts. And like you said, be as locked in as possible every single play mentally, so that we're not committing those kinds of turnovers.
Yeah. And I think too, like, there's a really small or tight balance in having the energy and that passion in this game, while also
and not being sloppy,
keeping your cool, not getting involved in the extracurriculars, the stupid penalties, getting in heated interactions.
You said, I mean, you have to be mentally locked in.
Yes.
And in order to do that, you got to have some fire, but you got to know more than anything, what is my responsibility out here on this turf tonight?
Yeah. And I was actually listening to the Locked On Spartans today, and
we love Matt Sheehan over here. He's just the best.
Sheehan had former Michigan State linebacker Chris Frey on the podcast, and he was saying that he remembers going into the game in 2015 is the Jalen Watts Jackson trouble with the snap year, that they pulled up to the stadium in Ann Arbor, juiced up, ready to go. Everybody kind of gets up, ready to get off the bus. And Coach D'Antonio gets up and tells everybody to sit down. And he goes, before we go in there, I want every one of you to take 10 seconds to envision like one thing that you guys are going to do on the field to help us win this game. And Chris Fry said that the funny thing was the way that game ended, there was 10 seconds left and Michigan was about to punt the ball away. And then we know what happened after that. But like, you have to be able to like have that focus to be okay. Like whether I'm going to be getting 5 snaps on special teams, whether I'm going to be in every single possession, like what am I going to do to make sure that I am helping this team win? And you got to have all 22 guys locked in on that same goal or a passion. And I know it's interesting that we kind of brought this up because Joe Rossi, I think, said this week that on so many plays, we have 9 or 10 guys that are locked in, and then we have 1 or 2 guys.
And that's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
I mean, I keep coming back to this analogy because it's so great. And now, Miss Taylor Swift has used it herself. I mean, it's violent chess. That is football. And you have one player out of position. That other person that you're playing is an expert, and they're going to exploit it every single time. Like you got to have every single person locked in position exactly where they need to be to limit what the opponent can do.
Knowing their role, knowing their assignment.
I think it says a lot too of who helped the players get to that mental space, right? Like it takes leadership, strong leadership, somebody who can read the room, who can tell what his guys need to help get them into that mental clarity and that headspace. So, gosh, Jonathan Smith, please pull out all the stops. Our whole coaching staff. I mean, I have so much faith in them. Like, there's just so many wonderful coaches truly on this staff, and I don't mean to discredit them. I mean, Lege is just a fantastic, family man and encourager. I mean, I've just never hear anything but good things about him. Courtney Hawkins, just a legend. Like, we know that we have these kind of leaders in coaching positions, and like, man, just show it off this week. Like, show the guys that you're there for them. You can take care of them. I think it could be a very different story this week. I'm not counting on it, but it could be a very different story this week, and a really powerful one.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see, and we'll be here next week with you guys to break it all down and process whatever emotions come up after that game on Saturday night.
I might have a lot. It's fine. We're working them out right now. All right. We have been yapping about football for so long. Let's move on to, maybe some happier topics. Jonah, why don't you get us caught up with what is going on in the rest of the world of Spartan athletics these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, Abby, it's been a busy couple of weeks for the athletic department. A lot of sports are going on this time of year. It's very, very busy. I know last episode we talked about Michigan State hockey starting their season. They kind of had a mixed first series against New Hampshire, lost their opener 3-4, but then bounced back the next day with a 2-0 victory. But this last week, let me tell you, Spartan hockey team went on the road to number 1 Boston University and got not 1, but 2 victories over Boston. And
huge deal.
Your Spartans are now the number 1 ranked team in the country. So absolutely electric vibes from this hockey team. I was only able to watch a little bit of the Friday night game, but they just looked like they were flying around the ice. The boys were buzzing.
Maintaining possession, I mean,
Yeah,
almost the
I mean,
majority of the game.
3 goals in the first period, and then just an absolutely crazy overtime in game two. If you haven't
Oh my
watched that
gosh.
sequence, it is about the wildest
Yeah.
sequence like I've ever seen in hockey. So check that out. But yeah, hockey team is performing very well, and like I said, number one team in the country. Your women's volleyball team continues on their very successful season that they are now 15-3
Wow.
on the year. They've racked up wins against number 20 Indiana in straight sets, against Maryland, and then also versus Iowa. Their only loss coming against number 1 Nebraska.
Yeah, Nebraska is just insane.
Just a different level. But like I said, still 15-3
Yeah.
on the year. Just a fantastic showing under first year head coach. The women's soccer team continues to play very well. We talked about how they were coming up to Ann Arbor to play Michigan. They ended up winning that game 1-0.
We'll take any excuse to brag on wins over Michigan, especially during rivalry week.
They followed that up with a loss to number 7 Iowa, but since then have beaten Indiana and Illinois. They are now 6-1-1.
I was going to say that's only one loss in conference
Big Ten play.
Yeah.
So very impressive from the Lady Spartans as they continue this rolling. And then from the men's soccer team, a little bit of an up and down. They have a couple of recent ties against Northwestern and UCLA, and then a 0-2 loss against Wisconsin. So kind of a up and down, back and forth kind of season for the men's soccer team, but still finding success and staying competitive in pretty much all of these games.
Yeah, they've shown that they have a high ceiling. I mean, they've been pulling off some wins against teams that nobody expected them to beat, but just still figuring out where that floor is. It's moving around a little bit right now.
And I'm excited for this next one.
Heck yeah. I think I'm going to be even more excited.
They're usually not really in our halftime segment, usually because
they'll start getting their own dedicated time soon.
Exactly. But your men's basketball team is back in action this week as they play Bowling Green.
For those of you who can't see, I've got these really awkward jazz hands right now because I'm just so excited about basketball.
They play Bowling Green in an exhibition this week to kind of see what these Spartans are looking like, what the starting lineup is going to be. Thursday, yeah.
That's quick.
Yeah.
Oh, basketball.
And then the following week, they travel to Storrs, Connecticut to take on UConn, which is going to be a very, very interesting.
For another exhibition game.
For another exhibition, which I'm a big fan of because their regular season starts off a million miles an hour.
Heavy.
So playing a top 5 team in an exhibition.
Jeez.
I think it's going to be a good warm up to kind of see maybe kind of how this Michigan State team stacks up.
That's kind of rare, right? To like play such a tough opponent in exhibition. I mean, last year we played like Northern Michigan and Ferris State. I mean, it's normal to play more like D2, low D1 schools.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of been like a recent trend where like teams are kind of scheduling tougher exhibition games. I know Michigan just played Cincinnati. Like, you're seeing a lot more like Power 4 teams playing each other in these exhibitions.
Which, like, if you can limit injuries, like, why not?
Why not? Like, why not take on a top 5 Connecticut team without the risk of taking a loss in the score or like in the win column?
Yeah.
You know, like you get to measure up against an elite team, a good coach, like
wake your guys up a little bit.
Wake your guys up. That way when they're taking on Arkansas the second week of the season, when they're taking on Kentucky and North Carolina and Duke, like you have some tests that are getting stacked and you kind of know what you need to bring to the table to be able to compete in these games.
And I'm going to get nerdy here, but if you tuned in last season when we're here for our episode with Anthony, or the real Shardy, as you might know him, you know, talking all about like Ken Pom, Bart Torvik, statistical prediction, especially as you're filling out your brackets for March Madness. Like part of the frustration with Michigan State and where they were getting ranked in those things, and I think probably why it didn't reflect them being an Elite Eight team last season, was that we didn't really play much of anybody in the early part of the season. I mean, comparatively to what Tom likes to do. And so I think it's really awesome. Not that the Yukon stats are going to be in there, but we are, as we'll get into next week, starting off with a bang in basketball season. So, some of those things will be really interesting to see how it influences. Again, not that stats win games or or whatever, but it's just, I think it's going to be fun to see how it plays out, because really those wins, losses against top 25 teams, those experience just sets you up, I think, so differently for the season. So it's nice that we get more of that experience against a top 25 team without any of the negative statistical consequences from that, or
Right.
from the NCAA committee.
And we'll get into more of the basketball team next week. Hopefully, talk a little bit more about them. Kind of preview the Spartans. And I can't remember exactly, but they're ranked number 22 in the country, I think, preseason.
Sounds good to me.
It might be 23, but like some expectations,
Yeah.
but like not all the pressure in the world.
Kind of happy about that.
I saw somebody put online. They said that if Jackson Kohler, Cohen Carr, and Jamie Fears were incoming transfers to Michigan State, they'd be a top 5 team in the country to preseason rankings.
So interesting.
But because they've returned all those players, they're not getting a lot of love, which I'm like,
I kind of don't hate.
Yeah, I mean,
let us surprise you.
Let us surprise you. And like, I don't think anybody in that locker room really cares that much. Like, they know what it takes to win. They made Elite Eight last year. They won the Big Ten championship by 3 games. So,
and I mean, isn't it more fun to just like climb the rankings?
Yeah, exactly. So, and we're gonna see some very big opportunity to see if they can climb the rankings early in this season. But I'm so excited. Basketball is back. It's always a fun time of year.
Chilly this week. We had some rain. I can put my basketball hoodie on now and not feel bad about it, because I feel like I should be hyping up the football team more. No, we can enjoy both. And I really hope that it'll help bolster a lot of us tired, weary Spartan fans out here. Basketball is here. Tom Izzo's back. I just love that man.
Yeah, we've probably been talking way too long tonight, but there was a lot to talk about.
Many things to unpack, get out in the open.
But I guarantee you it's going to be another action-packed episode next week, unpacking the Michigan game, looking into the basketball team more. But for now, if you have any thoughts, any questions, make sure to reach out to We Got It podcast on all social media platforms. Also, at the We Got It podcast at gmail.com. Any questions, any comments, any suggestions, any hate, send it our way. We love the feedback, like Abby said. Make sure if you're listening to us, to follow, to subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, interact with us on social media. We'd love to see this continue to grow, just to be able to be to more Spartan fans. But Abby, as always, go green.
Go white.
Go state.